Now, this is a debate that has been going on for a long time, and I think probably one of the best illustrations of this is an interview that Noam Chomsky gave to a Canadian neocon named Evan Solomon. He was like this young, like smug, totally banal supporter of the war on terror, is centered on Israel. And he was interviewing Noam Chomsky, who wrote a book about 9/11 that basically tried to get Americans to see we've done far worse to them than 9/11. And when you do that, you're going to get violence back. And here was Chomsky's kind of philosophy about foreign policy laid out in a way that was much more extreme than anything Mahmoud Khalil said.
You asked us after September 11, one of your points was we got to look in the mirror, we being America or the West, we got to look in the mirror at our own. Was that a way of saying, look, people like bin Laden are angry at us for good reason?
No,
in other words, is there a way to justify?
That's not what I was saying. The statement of mine that you just quoted is a very conservative statement. In fact, it was articulated by George Bush's favorite philosopher, Jesus Christ, who pointed out, famously defined the notion hypocrite. A hypocrite is a person who focuses on the other fellow's crimes and refuses to look at his own. That's the definition of hypocrite by George Bush's favorite philosopher. When I repeat that, I'm not taking a radical position. I'm taking a position which is just elementary morality.
But even if he is a hypocrite, and they
all,
even
not he, just, everyone.
Okay, even
can you let me ask another question? See, here's an experiment. Try to find a phrase in the massive commentary on September 11th, which is not hypocritical in the sense of George Bush's favorite philosopher. Find one phrase.
All right, but before,
I don't think you can do it.
Okay, but before I don't want to get Gnostic here and religious on it, but I do want to...
This is not religion. This is elementary morality. If people cannot rise to the level of applying to ourselves the same standards we apply to others, they have no right to talk about right and wrong or good and evil.
But let's talk about even in right. And look, there's nobody pure, but an argument has been made. I know that the U.S. has committed atrocities. However, they did oust a more brutal regime, the Taliban. There
wasn't even a war aim. There wasn't even a war aim.
I mean, poor Chomsky, seriously, like he was one of the very few people after 9/11 who was standing up and saying all of this and just dealing with a wall of brainwashed idiots who basically are just tribalistic, like utterly incapable of understanding the motives of other people. And they've been inculcated not to understand it. And so when Mahmoud Khalil makes a statement as banal and as Chomsky as conservative, as saying, look, if you don't solve this problem, if you constantly have Israeli killing and repression of Palestinians, of course we're going to get to this point of October 7th. It's inevitable. When he says something so mild like that, it becomes like shocking to the American ear. Like, how can he do anything other than just condemn Hamas and say that they're monsters who out of nowhere did this to Israel? And then Barry White's like, what about the Beebus babies? What about all the babies in Palestine, in the West Bank, and in Gaza who Israel killed for decades, including all throughout 2023? What about them? And the reality is a lot of Israel supporters, and you see this in all this language about, their roaches, and they have to put them on a diet, mow the lawn, or weeds grow, and rats have the ability to run around. They are inculcated to see these people in the West Bank and Gaza not as human, as subhuman. When Yoav announced that we're going to block Israel's going to block all food and water from entering Gaza, he said they're animals. And that's exactly how they see them. But if you see human beings as animals and you treat them as animals, or worse than animals, most people just don't go around killing animals for no reason. I mean, the factory farm industry does on a mass scale, but it's at least they have the excuse if they're making a profit. If you just treat people like animals, if you kill them whenever you feel like it, if you blockade their countries, control their countries, humiliate them day after day after day after day, of course they're going to fight back. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to say it's moral. It's inevitable, though. And it's so immature and such propaganda that anytime anyone says that they're now guilty of whatever, terrorism, defending terrorism or justifying October 7th, it isn't remotely what he did.